Hey warrior, you, the silent fighter beneath the surface chaos. You carry your family history like ancient armor. Some days it weighs you down more than it protects. You've walked rooms thick with judgment, played peacemaker in silent battles, and swallowed words that have left you with invisible scars. You wake up tired, not from lack of sleep, but from a lifetime of tolerating what you know you shouldn't. The Stoics taught, what you allow becomes your master. This is not a call to rebellion, it's a call to presence. To the few who would rather disappoint their comfort than betray their soul, this is your mirror. Today, let's strip away excuses and reclaim the quiet dignity that's yours by birthright. Now breathe. We're about to walk through the 10 behaviors you must never tolerate, no matter whose blood runs alongside yours. There's a certain look, a sigh, a pause, a carefully aimed question that turns your no into shame. You know it well. The artful distribution of guilt for not becoming someone else's solution. Your peace trades places with their approval. The Stoics would ask, whose life are you really living? This is where we begin. Let's take a moment and travel together to 2,000 years ago, to a time when Marcus Aurelius doesn't have Instagram, but he certainly has people sighing around him, expecting the emperor to do just about everything. Marcus, have you considered pleasing the Senate? Marcus, could you possibly relocate that statue? The goat is offended. You can almost hear him asking Epictetus, do I really have to? Epictetus, in his gentle way, simply shrugs in your imagination, nudges a sandal aside and says, careful, my friend. Their guilt is not your compass. But wait, cue the dramatic reading of a modern text message. Hey, are you really not coming to my karaoke birthday after all I've done for you? Your phone vibrates, and suddenly, ancient Stoicism feels more relevant than ever. You're pressured to leap on stage for a rendition of Living on a Prayer, except now it's you living on borrowed anxiety and someone else's playlist. Modern Stoicism is like setting your emotional GPS before you ever leave the house and making sure it doesn't automatically reroute to Guilt Avenue. The Stoics remind us, just because someone else feels hurt doesn't mean you've committed moral treason. In fact, your primary responsibility, according to Epictetus, isn't to become an emotional contortionist every time someone else frowns. Imagine your boundaries as one of those inflatable sumo suits, not impenetrable, but bouncy enough to absorb a passive-aggressive comment with comedic flair. Would Seneca really have delayed his own peace to referee his friend's endless drama? Absolutely not. He'd set a timer, light a candle, and write a treatise titled On the Proper Ignoring of Emotional Extortion. Because here's a radical thought. You are allowed to disappoint people. You're allowed to say no with the gentleness of a Zen monk and the unwavering certainty of someone who knows that inner tranquility is not up for auction. Now, picture the guilt tripper, wistfully patrolling the emotional border, passport stamped, victim. Their expressions are skilled, their guilt trips grand. But you're armed with a trusty Stoic toolkit, equipped with phrases such as, that's unfortunate, but I can't. And I hope you understand, which, let's be honest, they may not. Doesn't matter. The world keeps spinning, birds keep singing, and you keep sipping your tea in peace. When someone hands you their coat of guilt, draped dramatically, like an Oscar-winning performance, ask yourself, do I really have to wear this? Or is this just theatre, and I'm a reluctant extra? Your answer is your liberation. Stoicism isn't about indifference, it's about discernment, figuring out when to support and when to kindly let someone else embrace the cold draft of their own expectations. Remember, Every time you surrender your serenity for someone else's comfort, you write a check from your energy account. And those checks, my friend, bounce with interest. Train yourself to recognize emotional blackmail not as a challenge to your kindness, but as a misplaced compass trying to point you in someone else's direction. So, the next time you feel that familiar tug towards guilt, echo the wisdom of the ancients. Why am I troubled? Is this my burden, or just someone else's backpack disguised as destiny? And with a quiet, slightly mischievous smile, honor your boundaries while letting go of their compass. And maybe, just maybe, keep your karaoke nights strictly voluntary. Every family has a critic in chief, the expert in your flaws, ready to carve their anxieties into your character. You start to see yourself through a cracked mirror. Never enough, never quite right. But Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let opinion pass through you. Let your own reason define your worth. The war ends where your boundaries begin." Imagine you're assembling IKEA furniture and someone keeps hovering over your shoulder, sighing pointedly and listing historical examples of your flat-pack failures. You tighten a single screw and, bam, a play-by-play analysis on why you always do things this way ensues. Family criticism is a bit like a coat that gets draped over your shoulders. It's heavy, it doesn't fit, and you never asked for it in the first place. Yet, here you are, wearing it, sweating under its itchy fabric, wondering if you'll ever just feel comfortable in your own skin. There's a secret the Stoics whispered across the ages. What other people say about you is none of your business. Yes, even if they say it at 7 a.m, just as you're pouring cereal, or as you try not to burn the toast. When Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," he clearly had a family group chat in mind. Criticism arrives unsolicited, like junk mail, but with worse fonts and a stronger scent of disappointment, and piles up faster than you can delete. You might find yourself rehearsing responses in your mind, defending your entire existence to ghostly panels of invisible judges. Stop. You do not need to audition for a version of yourself that pleases everyone else. Now, imagine the opinions of others as rubber balls. They bounce off your reasoning, a sturdy, well-built wall. Not because you're cold, but because you value your own peace. Marcus Aurelius wouldn't lose sleep over a cousin's comment about his folding technique or his salad-tossing speed. So, why should you? Their criticisms are more about them than they are about you, a reflection of their fears, a displacement of their anxieties. You're not a home improvement project at the mercy of their blueprints. You are, in the immortal words of Epictetus, the only judge of your interior castle. Hang curtains however you like. Paint the walls teal. Or don't. It's your space. As you lie in bed, imagine the voices of criticism fading to a gentle murmur, like rain outside your window. There is no urgent need to fix yourself at their command. No cosmic scoreboard that tallies every perceived flaw. Breathe in and recognize how much power you reclaim, one breath at a time, simply by declining the invitation to their renovation committee. Let their words float by like untethered balloons, colourful but ultimately empty. You're not obligated to catch and pop every single one. Watch them drift toward the ceiling, getting smaller and smaller until they vanish altogether. Tonight, wrap yourself in the gentle armour of your own self-approval. No family critique can pierce it. No passing comment can unmake it. If Stoicism teaches us anything, it's that our worth is sourced internally, untouchable by external verdicts. Let your boundaries be the moat around your castle, calmly refusing the invader's entry. In this stillness, you find space to be exactly who you are, unfinished, not because you lack, but because life itself is a work in progress. Delight in the imperfection. Nod politely to the critics in chief. Then turn down the volume on their commentary. Sleep soft, assured and unbothered, because you, like every Stoic before you, are gloriously unfixable by anyone's hand but your own. Some kin thrive on crisis, inviting you into emotional storms, their chaos pulling at your sanity like a tide. You get a front row seat to every disaster. Soon, peace itself feels like abandonment. But stillness isn't selfish. It is your rebellion against inherited chaos. Seneca reminds, you cannot calm another storm by drowning in it. There's a special kind of family member, a cousin maybe, or a melodramatic uncle, who believes life's everyday inconveniences are Shakespearean tragedies. No milk for cereal. The world is ending. A mild headache, surely a harbinger of doom. These drama connoisseurs hand out invitations to their emotional carnivals like candy. Join me, witness the chaos, offer your life preserver as tribute. It's tempting, especially when you're trained from youth to answer every beep and buzz of distress with heroics. But the Stoic way is to notice that false alarms do not require fire trucks. Epictetus would have you know, you are not Atlas. You don't have to hold up someone else's sky. But, alas, if you grew up with someone whose hobby was collecting crises, you may be fluent in the language of adrenaline. Your brain is equipped with tiny alarm bells that ring at every sigh, every panicked text, every declaration of it's all falling apart. And like Pavlov's dog, you snap to attention, ready to fix, to soothe, to rescue. But here's the Stoic plot twist. Rescuing is rarely rescue. More often, it's permission for the drama to set up a permanent encampment in your mental living room. Of course, boundaries sound easy in theory. Try telling Uncle Larry, mid-rant about someone stealing his favourite pen in 1989, that you no longer wish to be the designated pen detective. Expect confusion, resistance, and perhaps accusations that your soul has grown cold. But in truth, you're simply refusing to be cast as the sidekick in a saga you did not write. To practice this, notice when you're about to dive headfirst into someone's storm. Do your palms sweat at the sound of a notification? Does a voice whisper, "If you don't help, doom will surely follow"? Pause. Breathe. Remember that inner stillness can be an anchor. You are allowed to keep your boat tethered, even as someone else rides out hurricane season. Try this radical exercise. Next time you receive a panicked phone call, summon your inner Marcus Aurelius. Picture him calmly journaling, gladiators clashing in the distance, a chariot collision unfolding in the next room. Yet, he's unflappable. He's not auditioning for the role of rescuer. He's training his mind to hold steady. Now, respond to your cousin or your friend or your roommate with serenity, not urgency. I hear you. That sounds tough. What will you do about it? Behold the silence. Watch their face as you hand back the script, instead of improvising in their drama. In time, their storms may shrink, deprived of your applause. Or perhaps they'll find a new audience, and you can finally sip your tea in peace. Either way, you will have reclaimed your tranquility, which is neither selfish nor cruel, but self-respecting. Seneca didn't rush into other people's chaos, clutching a mop and a bucket, and neither should you. If your presence is only valued in crisis, consider what will remain when the drama subsides. Who are you, apart from the firefighter, apart from the fixer? You may just be someone worth knowing, not for your rescue skills, but for your quiet, sturdy presence. Not every life raft must be yours. Some ships are meant to weather the storm alone. May your calm become contagious, and your peace the ultimate plot twist. Expectations pressed on you like ill-fitting armor. A career you never chose. A role you never auditioned for. A happiness measured in their terms. It's a never-ending audition for an unwinnable prize. The Stoics knew, living according to someone else's script is the death of authenticity. Picture it. You're a hand-me-down character in a sitcom written by your parents, your friends, your high school guidance counselor, and Barbara from accounting, who somehow always has an opinion. They wrote the part. They've even left stage directions. You show up on set, squeak out your pre-written lines, and wonder why the audience never laughs, no matter how hard you mug. Epictetus, probably sipping poorly brewed Roman coffee, would shake his head and mutter, "You weren't cast in living for approval." Exit, stage left. It's easy, almost automatic, to take on these blueprints. By 25, you should have a career. By 30, you should be married and also own a dog who loves you but never sheds. If you're not happy by 35, consult a life coach named Chad. This is the architectural curse, blueprints drawn by someone else's trembling hand, and then stamped permanent by the weight of tradition. But the walls of this house are made of expectations, not stone. The Stoics were old pros at home renovation. Marcus Aurelius might say, if the wallpaper doesn't match your taste, tear it down and scribble poetry on the plaster. The philosopher's sledgehammer is simple. Question every expectation. Is it reasonable? Is it anchored in what I control? Or is it just a family relic, collecting dust along with the world's ugliest porcelain cat? We spend so much time trying to squeeze into these expectations. Careers that make us anxious. Hobbies that bore us to tears. Knitting club, again. Relationships where we nod politely while our soul slowly does the Macarena out the window. The joke, the cosmic punchline, is that nobody is really watching. Everyone else is too busy fumbling with their own script, trying not to trip over the stage lights of judgment. Stoicism doesn't demand that you rebel by becoming a chaos gremlin, but it does suggest that you peek behind the scenes. Ask, whose story am I living? If I'm following their blueprint, where does it actually lead? And if the answer is, somewhere there's a lot of beige carpet and existential dread, maybe it's time to say, this blueprint doesn't fit my style or my shoes. Let's get practical, because Stoics love a daily exercise as much as a good toga. Notice today when you feel a tightness, a bristling, an urge to perform. Catch yourself in the act. You might overhear your own narrative. I should do this, or even worse, I really should want to. If you can laugh softly and say, there's that script again, you've already started rewriting. Remember, authenticity cannot be outsourced. The most important blueprint is the one you draw in gentle pencil lines, subject to edits, coffee stains, and moments of sudden inspiration. The source of your worth is not in their approval, but in your acceptance of yourself, your path, and the riotous, unpredictable, thoroughly unblueprinted journey that unfolds when you finally lay down that heavy, ill-fitting armor and step on stage as the hero in your own unwritten play. Old nicknames, ancient mistakes, and roles from your childhood re-emerge at family gatherings, trapping you in amber. You become a character in someone else's memory, not the person you fought to become. Marcus said, "Change is nature's delight. Claim your right to outgrow yesterday." Picture this. You arrive at the family barbecue, strutting in with grown-up confidence and a smartphone that knows your caloric intake better than you do. Then, without warning, Aunt Linda shouts across the potato salad, "Oh look, it's the spaghetti incident." And just like that, you are 10 years old again, doomed to relive your doomed relationship with marinara sauce, no matter how many professional emails you send or achievements you post on LinkedIn. Stoicism reminds us that our nature is change, not the immortality of ketchup stains on our reputations. We often accept old labels like unwelcome hand-me-down sweaters, itchy, unfashionable, and about 3 emotional sizes too small. The shy one, the troublemaker, the one who can't cook rice without burning it. As if some secret Vatican council convened in your childhood kitchen and canonized you for eternity as Saint Overcooked. Epictetus would have called these impressions not in your control, and gently suggested you do what any sensible philosopher would. Return the ill-fitting sweater to sender with a "e-note, contains emotional allergens. Do not reuse." And what about those labels we stick to ourselves? I'm bad at relationships. I just don't finish things. Sometimes we treat these self-definitions like IKEA furniture, wobbling, half-assembled, but too stubborn to take apart and start over. Seneca, who never had to assemble a futon, still saw through the labels. He wrote, "No man can have a peaceful life who thinks too much about lengthening it, or believes that living many years is a great blessing." Swap years for labels, and you realize it's not how long you carry an identity, it's whether you keep lugging around the ones that bruise your shoulders. Each day offers an undiscovered exit out of the prison of old roles. Remember, you may be someone else's little brother or messy roommate forever, but that is their perception, not your present reality. Ask yourself the classic Stoic question. Is this within my control? Is my cousin's deep, emotional attachment to 2011's version of you really about you? Or is it about their comfort in a chaotic universe, using your past missteps as a lighthouse to warn themselves away from embarrassment? The trick is to accept that people will misremember you, mislabel you, and accidentally call you by your 4th grade nickname. This is not an existential crisis. It's just human nostalgia dressed as accuracy. Your job, according to the Stoics, is to refuse to wear the costume, thank them for the memory, smile, and quietly reflect. Who am I today, really? Modern Stoicism offers a practical hack. Mentally file every old label under outdated, please recycle. Treat your identity like your phone's operating system. Security update now available. New features installed. Old bugs fixed. If someone insists you're still the beta version, let them run on nostalgia while you reboot and run smoother in real time. In the grand cosmic joke, everyone's growth spurt goes unnoticed by the people most ready to comment on your height. Marcus Aurelius didn't bother sending out a press release when he had a personal breakthrough. He simply lived it. The prison of old labels is only locked from the inside. When you outgrow yesterday, you gain a key, sometimes shaped like self-irony, sometimes like unshakable calm. Tonight, as you drift off to sleep, let these outdated labels dissolve, like childhood stickers finally peeling off an old suitcase. Imagine yourself lighter, updated, and ready to surprise even yourself tomorrow. Yesterday's you has no authority today, and tomorrow, who knows what upgrades you'll install. You feel their eyes, weighing your successes, measuring you against siblings, cousins, invisible yardsticks. Their praise is rationed, their envy veiled in advice. Yet the Stoic mind asks, what do you own, if not your own standard of excellence? Let their envy return to sender. Let us drift gently into the crowded amphitheatre of envy, where everyone seems to be looking at you but pretending to watch the show. Here, in the footlights, your little victories are scrutinized with the intensity of Olympic judges, minus the spandex. that Instagram post about your job promotion. Aunt Marjorie's "so proud of you, dear" comment is covertly soaked in the juices of "wish I were you," tastefully seasoned with a dash of "would have done better when I was your age." Envy skulks like a silent saboteur at family reunions, at water coolers, and, unfortunately, sometimes in our own minds. How sneaky it is, wearing the stylish mask of helpful suggestion, or the ever-popular "just looking out for you." But the wise Stoic closes their eyes for a moment, takes a slow breath, as if inhaling the aroma of inner calm, and wonders, whose scoreboard am I on anyway? Why am I letting someone else's calculator tell me my worth? Picture Marcus Aurelius, ancient emperor, stoically eating his dinner while his second cousin, twice removed, whispers, "I see you conquered Germania, but have you even heard of gluten-free sourdough? There is always a new finish line someone else will try to set for you, a promotion you haven't earned, a relationship you haven't started, a laurel you have yet to rest upon. The problem isn't that you aren't measuring up. It's that the ruler is invisible, inflatable, occasionally on fire, and crucially, never yours." Comparisons are like carnival mirrors. They shrink and stretch your sense of self in ways nature never intended. You try to grow an apple from a lemon seed and then feel bad you're not orange enough. But why, the Stoic mind whispers with a conspiratorial wink, should you accept these tainted trophies? Their envy is their business. Your standard is your sanctuary. The mind is your private gymnasium, where you alone decide which muscles to flex. Flex humility, flex perseverance, heck, flex your quirky collection of ceramic frogs, if it truly brings you joy. Notice envy's tactics. It is stealthy, slippery, and fueled by lack. Its true genius, persuading you that your neighbour's grass is greener, even if your neighbour secretly wishes for your clover patch. The Stoics would nudge you, gently, because who wants a rude awakening at this hour? Focus on what lies within your control, your choices, your reactions, your surprisingly advanced ability to ignore passive-aggressive group chat messages. Sleep comes easier when you decorate your mind with your own achievements, not with the shrunken taxidermy of someone else's ambition. Let their comparisons waft away like a soap bubble on a soft breeze, perhaps leaving behind a faint shimmer of meh. If you're ever caught in self-doubt, channel your inner emperor, robe optional, wisdom mandatory, and simply say, "Thank you for your perspective, but I'm sticking to my own syllabus." Each night, as the world tries to creep in with its whispering metrics and silent sabotage, recite this tranquil truth. Their envy is not my mirror. Their comparisons are not my curriculum. Sleep sound, untethered, and gloriously off-script. You're told that family is everything, a mantra often used to excuse everything. But loyalty without respect is slavery, not virtue. Seneca wrote, "True kinship is built by character, not by birthright. Your dignity is not a group discount." Let's step into the living room. Maybe there's a plastic-covered couch, a distant cousin reciting tales of their cryptocurrency empire, and someone's aunt critiquing your life choices with the gentle touch of a jackhammer. In families like these, the demand for blind loyalty is endless. You're asked to go to third cousin's 15th birthday party, held at a laser tag place with suspiciously sticky floors. If you so much as hesitate, someone will raise an eyebrow and sigh. But we're family. Modern Stoicism asks, how did blood, mere biology, get knighted as unbreakable moral currency? Marcus Aurelius never wrote, "Let the disrespect flow," as long as Thanksgiving dinner is delicious. No, he wrote about character, about the inner citadel no one, not even Uncle Lou with his opinions on your haircut, could storm. To Marcus, loyalty meant supporting virtue, not putting up with nonsense. Our cultural scripts treat family as a get-out-of-jail-free card for bad behaviour. But think of Epictetus, who would point out, if the chains around your wrist are velvet, they're still chains. When Aunt Gertrude expects unwavering allegiance while sniping at your dreams, is that kinship? Or just cultivated Stockholm Syndrome with matching DNA? Say your brother borrows your favourite sweater without asking and returns it smelling like adventure and probably garlic bread. Do you bite your tongue because that's what siblings do? Or do you channel your inner Stoic and clarify kindly that respect is a two-way street and laundry detergent exists for everyone? Loyalty without mutual respect is a game only one side truly enjoys. Usually, it's the one with your sweater. Let's not confuse connection with obligation. Family can be a furnace that forges your character, or it can be a bonfire where your boundaries get incinerated alongside those embarrassing childhood photos. The Stoics would have us stoke the former, not throw ourselves in the flames. Sure, send the group chat obligatory emojis, but do not ship your self-respect with overnight delivery just to keep the peace. Even Marcus probably wouldn't have joined every group family Zoom. Modern Stoicism reminds us, your worth was not assigned by ancestry. Mutual respect is what upgrades mere bloodlines into genuine belonging. When someone expects loyalty simply because of shared genetic material, without effort, kindness, or growth, they're treating kinship like a membership card. But Stoic kinship is earned with character, not by showing up at the same awkward holiday dinners. So next time you're asked to join the loyalty conga line without question, channel your inner Seneca and Marcus. Smile gently, pass the mashed potatoes, and remember, the foundation of any relationship, family or otherwise, must be respect. Because blood is not a blank check, it's merely the ink. Character is how you write the story. There's a hush in the air, a cold front of unspoken words. They shut down instead of working through, and you're left tending to unresolved wounds. But Epictetus taught, what they refuse to speak, you are not required to heal. Truth is not obliged to cower before silence. Stonewalling is that peculiar form of ghosting, performed by someone who is technically still in the room. They're not haunting hallways or rattling chains. They're sitting right across the table, successfully impersonating a decorative vase. You wave your hand in front of their face, and nothing. Just that. Emotionally, frosty standoff between the hope you have for dialogue and the brick wall of their wordless resistance. Rather than a noble silence, what lies here is a competitive sport of who cares less, an Olympic event for the emotionally avoidant. And yes, while they have raised the bar on passive resistance, you, dear listener, are not obligated to scale it. The Stoics remind us, the only baggage we must carry is our own. If someone refuses to unpack theirs, you don't owe them a free round of unsolicited therapy. It is not your sacred duty to write their apology letter in your heart. There's a particular brand of isolation that comes from stonewalling, the kind where you feel loneliest beside the person you care about most. You offer olive branches, and they're met with the emotional equivalent of noise-cancelling headphones. In the background, Seneca's voice echoes, courteously of course, not wanting to disturb the silence. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Take off those extra weights. Set down the stories about what you might have done wrong and gaze at what is actually present. Sometimes the quiet isn't profound. It's just someone else's refusal to share the work. The pressure to break the silence is cunning. It sneaks into your mind late at night. Maybe if I phrase my feelings perfectly, they'll answer. Maybe if I just keep reaching out, they'll unwax their emotional ears. But this is the arena Epictetus had in mind. He reminds us, their unspoken story is not an invitation for you to narrate or resolve. You can wish them well from outside their fortress. You can even mail them a tiny metaphorical ladder, but you don't have to climb in after them. You are not a relationship locksmith. You are not obliged to chisel away at the wall with the pickaxe of self-sacrifice. Sometimes self-respect looks like lovingly putting the chisel down and realizing you can build your own peace elsewhere. Stonewalling asks you to believe that silence is a verdict. It's not. It's just the sound of someone's tongue taking annual leave. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, release the urge to fix what someone else has padlocked. Let their silence echo in its own chamber while you open the windows to your mind. There's fresh air outside that fortress, and while you cannot heal what another refuses to name, you can always heal yourself. Even if that only means finally getting a good night's rest, unburdened by the weight of words that were never spoken, warmth given only when you conform, affection as a prize for compliance, love that contracts with every disagreement. It's a subtle barter system, and your real self pays the price. The Stoics believed virtue and love are unconditional. Anything less is a contract, not kinship. Imagine for a moment that family gatherings had an actual transaction counter by the front door. You walk in, say hi, ding, that's 2 affection credits. Now, if you dare mention that bizarre taste in music, or your preference for pineapple on pizza, watch out. The meter starts spinning backward. Affection points deducted. Suddenly, you're bankrupt, emotionally speaking, until you sing along with everyone else's opinions. Stoicism stands at this imaginary counter like a security guard in socks and sandals, arms folded, unimpressed by this petty commerce. Seneca would probably glare at your aunt and say, "Why are you charging interest on hugs?" Conditional love sexual. It's the credit card with hidden fees. At first, the approval is instant. Sure, we love you as long as... But misstep, a disagreement, a spoken truth, and the statement comes due. Notice this in your mind. How quickly do you step out of your own authenticity for the emotional mortgage payments? Stoicism asks you, if love is so fragile it folds when things get real, was it love or merely a pleasant rental agreement? Affection, given only as a reward, warps both giver and receiver. The best Stoic friendships were based on the character, not on a quid pro quo chart taped to the fridge. Epictetus might remind us, never value anything as profitable to yourself, which shall compel you to break your promise, to lose your self-respect, or to hate, suspect, or curse another. Translation. If you find yourself squinting to see fine print in your relationships, it's time to renegotiate your standards, not your soul. And isn't that the ultimate comedy of it all? The parent who withholds praise until you match their dreams. The friend who love bombs only until politics come up. The partner who dishes out affection in teaspoons, but criticism in ladles. It's like winning a game where the rules change every time you start to get good at it. Who made them the casino dealer of your worth? Stoicism urges you to step back from the table. The jackpot isn't their approval. It's your equanimity, your peaceful core, untouched by fluctuating balances. Even in the animal kingdom, watch a dog wag its tail unconditionally, or a cat. Well, cats are Stoics anyway, so maybe skip the cat. But notice that pure, agenda-free affection. Contrast it with human spheres, where "I love you" sometimes comes trailing an asterisk and 5 paragraphs of terms and conditions. The Stoics didn't own phones, but if they did, they'd have unconditional positive regard turned on in their relationship settings and 0 unread notifications about lost loyalty points. Picture Marcus Aurelius brooding in his study, quill poised, writing not epic treatises but a love letter, only to stop and cross out every "if you behave" and "as long as you agree." His version would simply say, "I wish you well." No footnotes required. Because the moment affection becomes transactional, it ceases being love and turns into emotional accounting, which, let's be honest, nobody wants to audit at 2 a.m. So next time you feel the urge to negotiate for warmth, offering a sanitized version of yourself to collect a little affection, remember, true kinship, the kind the Stoics praised, doesn't come with a receipt. You don't owe, you don't collect. It flows for the sake of itself, like a trickling stream, clear, undemanding, and always freely given. Stoic love isn't a bargaining chip. It's the river that carries all your awkward, hilarious, flawed humanity downstream, right to the ocean of belonging. Now, that's a currency worth dreaming to. Perhaps the greatest betrayal of all. Inheriting wounds no one else was brave enough to heal. Their bitterness seeps into you almost unnoticed, until you realize this storm is not yours to repeat. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle is the way. Your refusal is the world's renewal." Imagine the struggle, a family dinner spiced not by oregano, but by the unresolved anxiety handed down like grandma's casserole recipe. Suddenly, you're eating 3 generations of unspoken criticism and oddly congealed sadness. Maybe your uncle never learned to listen, your mother never learned to apologize, and your father never once learned what "I'm sorry" tastes like. In their stead, you inherit a strange emotional relay baton. Accusation, silence, defensiveness, passed to you, expected to be carried ever onward. But tonight, you practice the ultimate Stoic offense, setting it down. Hushed, final. They can look at you, puzzled, and say, "But aren't you going to pick up the emotional chaos?" And you'll say, "Actually, I'm building a new discourse. It's called Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys, the Stoic Remix." The greatest rebellion is gentleness. When anger comes knocking, you invite it in for tea and serve it mindfulness instead of sugar. When guilt tries to build a nest in your sternum, you show it the "no vacancy" sign and remind it that, as Seneca said, your mind is like a fortress. Guard the gates well. Every time you interrupt the old pattern, you breathe and choose not to give the family shame spiral another spin. You are literally performing historic renovation. You are the emotionally minimalist descendant. Less baggage, more space. Maybe you worry that this makes you cold or uncaring. As if compassion only counts if you're drowning in the family tumult. Marcus would pat you on the shoulder in a moderately stoic way with minimal eye contact and say, "Compassion requires boundaries. Otherwise, you're just a sponge with boundary issues." When you create peace in yourself, you offer everyone a new blueprint. "See," you say by your example, "suffering is not a family heirloom. I will not pass it down. You are not here to be the sum of other people's pain, nor the echo of their regrets. The family that raised you gave you history, but not destiny." Every time you say no to manipulation, criticism, drama, you become the ancestor your lineage always needed. Your discipline is the quiet thunder that dissolves generations of noise. You do not need permission to be peace in a world devoted to chaos. Breathe deep. Honor yourself for tuning in, for choosing to hear truth over keeping the peace. The Stoics called us to a freedom so radical it could not be earned or inherited, only chosen. So tonight, let yourself rest not in the approval of others, but in the deep, cool well of your own dignity. Remember, you are the proof. You are the pause. Walk quietly. Walk free. You are not here to be the sum of other people's pain, nor the echo of their regrets. The family that raised you gave you history, but not destiny. Every time you say no to manipulation, criticism, drama, you become the ancestor your lineage always needed. Your discipline is the quiet thunder that dissolves generations of noise. You do not need permission to be peace in a world devoted to chaos. Breathe deep. Honor yourself for tuning in, for choosing to hear truth over keeping the peace. The Stoics called us to a freedom so radical it could not be earned or inherited, only chosen. So tonight, let yourself rest, not in the approval of others, but in the deep, cool well of your own dignity. Remember, you are the proof. You are the pause. Walk quietly.